Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe. My name is Greg Engel.
And I'm Jaron Decker.
And we'll be your host today. Today on Anything Joe's, we're covering most recent news and most recent acquisitions. Boy, do we have a lot of both of those things. So, without further ado, let's get started. First thing on the news docket. And man, there is a lot of I'm very excited to record this episode because there's a lot of exceptionally interesting news that's been happening recently. News item number 1. Snake Eyes will fight Batman.
That's a good place to start. That's a really good place to start.
If I was making a header for this news item, it would say Batman versus Snake Eyes ! And then in very small parentheses, it would say in a Fortnite comic. The official listing is the crossover between DC's Batman and Epic Games' Fortnite will feature a showdown between the Dark Knight and Snake Eyes. Due out in May, the cover for Batman Fortnite 0.3 sees Snake Eyes attempting to attack Batman from behind. According to Bleeding Cool, the solicitation for the issue reads, "Worlds collide on the island as G.I. Joe's unstoppable ninja clashes with the Dark Knight. Can either of them win when neither can escape?" So, here's the full solicitation. Written by Christos Gage and Donald Mustard. Art by Riley Brown, Nelson DeCastro, and John Kalitz. On sale May 18th. Batman vs. Snake Eyes. That's it. That's the solicit. You heard us. Batman vs. Snake Eyes. Yes, that's Snake Eyes. Worlds collide on the island as G.I. Joe's unstoppable ninja clashes with the Dark Knight. Can either of them win when neither can escape? Will Batman remember he's got to find a way back to Catwoman, all while trying to get back to Gotham City? And what the heck is Harley Quinn doing here? Oh, and in case we forgot to mention it, Batman fighting Snake Eyes. Do not miss it. So, before I get into the logistics of this book, I will note that it is written by Christos Gage. Christos Gage wrote the IDW G.I. Joe Cobra book that everybody loves. He also wrote a big run on the G.I. Joe Cobra. Christos Gage is a great G.I. Joe comic book writer, and he wrote other stuff other than this story with Chuckles Undercover, which is heads and tails one of the best books that they put out in the more recent years. I say recent, it's like 10 years old, but still it holds the test of time. So there's a boatload of potential just by attaching his name to it. Now, having said that, let's look at the premise of this first of all. As I understand it, Batman is transported to what we'll call Fortnite Island, and he fights a bunch of characters from Fortnite, which, if you know anything about Fortnite, is a virtually unlimited property. Like, they have everything. So, literally anybody could show up, I guess. I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen a G.I. Joe character in a DC book, regardless of how thin that line is. So, before I get into the nitty-gritty, here are my main questions. Is this the and I'm using air quotes here, the real Batman? Is this the real Snake Eyes, or is it supposed to be some kind of like here on Fortnite Island, all your fantasies come through, and it's just like some kind of mind, you know what I mean, like trick of the mind, or some kind of, I don't want to say robot, but you know what I mean. Is it not supposed to be the real Snake Eyes? Is it not supposed to be, I don't know. I don't care about any other characters that are in this book, but I haven't seen any other like logistics of who he's fighting or how it goes down.
I mean, if you think about it, if you've played Fortnite, like when they die, they they hologram basically. Like they turn themselves off, or when they, you start the game, you like load up like a hologram. They could do something like that if they wanted to. I would prefer that they just dropped these guys off on an island and went Hunger Games on it. But
yeah, so there are some questions, and I guess it's kind of silly to be like, well, if it's not the real Snake Eyes, then who even cares? But as for an event this monumental, I would like there to be a little bit of fair ground. Otherwise, what I'm going to talk about next is a little skew, because if it's like not supposed to be the actual reality Snake Eyes, then of course he's going to lose because it's not the real deal. If it is supposed to be, okay, let me approach it from another angle. Maybe it's like a Contest of Champions, Secret Wars, where it's like, oh, we plucked all of these characters from their realities, and then we dropped them all here, and now they're all fighting to survive, which is great. And if they don't use that, then I will later in my Fortnite fanfic, my Fortfic.
Oh no.
Okay, so anyway, I do have a lot of questions about that, and I think it's an important part of the story to iron that out in a way where I'm actually invested in the outcome.
Has issue number 1 been released yet?
No, I guess these release like really rapid fire. I guess these are released in either weekly or bi-weekly. So,
Okay.
as to my knowledge, the first issue is not out at this juncture. I will read the stuff leading up to this, so I guarantee you the end of number 2 will be like Batman walks through a field. He's like, "Whew, that was a tough fight against, I don't know, Ripley from Aliens," and then Snake Eyes is standing there like, "Let's fight."
Yeah.
So here's my question: who wins in this fight, Jaron?
You can't do this to me. Okay, it depends on what version of Batman we're getting, is what I'm going to say. Because if we're getting the modern, it's Batman because he's Batman, then Batman wins because it's Batman, and that's it.
This is a popular theory with Batman fans the world over.
Like, that's the thing, is so many people will argue until they're blue in the face that Batman will win simply because he's Batman. I'm going to err on the side of the guy who has less restrictions. The guy who uses more, he uses actual guns and things like that. So if I was taking my versions of these characters, I'm taking Snake Eyes.
Yeah, so Batman is wearing a really unusual outfit on both of these covers. It's on the regular cover. It's like his bat logo looks like it's spray painted on. He doesn't have any sleeves for some reason. He has, on the Jim Lee variant cover, he's got a huge grappling hook in his hand. It's a monster. So I don't know if that's part of the story, or he's taken a lot of damage to get to this point, or he built some of this stuff while he's on the island. But all of that stuff is kind of factors in to what is going on. The Snake Eyes version, at least on the Jim Lee variant cover, is straight up the classified version. And the dead giveaway is that he has that star logo on his shoulder, and that's a very classified-esque branding. So I am not a big Batman fan. I'm not I'm not anti-Batman, but I am one of those people that gets very aggravated when somebody's like, "Well, if Batman had enough time to prepare, he could probably take down Galactus, right?"
Yeah.
But I will give, credit where credit's due. Batman is a great character and can do his fair share of harm. And it's perfectly logical to be could Batman beat Snake Eyes? And say, yeah, he probably could, but in the right circumstances. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But again, I would also have Snake Eyes, not just because I greatly prefer Snake Eyes to Batman, as you would expect on a G.I. Joe themed podcast, but just that I think Snake Eyes is a little bit more. It's like putting him up against Wolverine. You know what I mean? He's kind of like the best of the best. Mm-hmm. Let me push all that to the side. I've said my opinion piece and how I think it'll shake out. Batman will win this. Batman. It's literally Batman. It's a Batman book. It's Batman / Fortnite. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the theory that I'm going to throw out is that they're fighting, and then Batman rips Snake Eyes' outfit, and it exposes his Arashikage tattoo, and then Batman's like, "Oh, long ago." That's not a good Batman voice. "Long ago, I traded with Lady Shiva." That's not a good Batman voice either.
That was a great Batman voice.
Where is it? Long ago, I trained. He'll be like, "Long ago, I trained with Lady Shiva or somebody, and she taught me these amazing secret Arashikage moves, and told me that all Arashikages are good guys and they should always be trusted." And then they'll be like, and I mean that's the classic comic book approach to good guys fighting. There's a misunderstanding, they fight for a little while, they realize their ways, so the error of their ways, and then they're buddies.
Yeah, my problem is, where do you go from the end of this issue?
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea who is the ultimate villain in a Fortnite book.
Well, and does Snake Eyes stay around? Does he come back? If he doesn't, where are you going to explain that he went? He was just like, all right, well, Batman can handle this.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that they are on two different quests, and unless he's been brainwashed or something, which I also hope is not the case.
That'd be terrible.
I don't know enough about the characters of Fortnite other than Omega, which is the only name I can draw because I bought an Omega toy because I thought he looked cool, and it turned out that he's a pretty real villain.
Oh, you need to get Peely. That's who you need. That's
Set
the banana.
If the banana's in this comic, I will buy the whole series because that Batman versus Banana would be a very interesting matchup.
I want to see him bruise the banana, like him punch it and he gets all bruised. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Anyway, so Batman Fortnite 0.3 is on sale May 18th. Just a heads up, those DC comic prices are rising. Looks like the original issue had a $4.99 price point, but when I pulled up the Jim Lee variant, it's got a $5.99 price point. So I hope you like your comics nice and expensive, because that's where we're at now. All right, on to the next thing. World of Tank skins.
Oh boy.
World of Tanks is launching a special collaboration, and all of you can participate. Created by Hasbro, G.I. Joe is one of the most popular action figure lines in the world. Generations of kids in the U.S., blah, 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 blah. And now one global cultural phenomenon is about to be another. Well, that's a pretty high praise for your own game, World of Tanks. The famous adversaries from G.I. Joe and Cobra have come to World of Tanks to settle their scores in their impressive new vehicles, the BTT and the BOA, which are apparently just exterior skins. So basically you got 2 tanks, 2 commanders. There's a G.I. Joe tank, which is sort of similar to the Mobat with some tweaks. And
but very ugly.
It is pretty unusual, but my guess is that they were like, well, this is the tank that we have that's the closest looking to the Mobat, so we're going to make it, we're paint it military green and put Slap Duke in there. And then the Cobra tank, which is not a direct representation, but it's supposed to be the Cat, which is like a repaint of the Mobat, basically. Except they tweaked a bunch of stuff. And so, while neither of these are technically accurate to their toys that they're based off of, they put a lot of like little stuff in there, which I do give them credit for. They added like the mines that came with the treble bubble. And they've got like guns that are reminiscent of other vehicles. Like the Cobra tank has got like stun looking guns on the sides.
It's got that turret on the top that looks like it's from the Hiss tank.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff on here that's like they did their homework, man. And Jaron, have you ever played World of Tanks before?
I have played a little bit of it. I'm really bad at it. That's why I stated a little bit. It's really fun, but it's less fun when you're garbage. The one thing I will see while reading about it is it looks like the Duke themed tank is more slow and heavy hitting, whereas the Cobra tank is a little faster, but with a little bit less firepower overall.
It's tough for me to pick up a game like this that's been around for so long, and because the learning curve is so difficult. So I have every intention of playing this game, but it's just going to be like, if I get it and I start getting like ground to pieces right off the bat, then it's probably going to steer me away from it right away. I will say that right now it's like featured in Prime Gaming's special package. G.I. Joe Duke is available as a multinational tank commander from March 18th through April 15th. Prime Gaming is if you link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, you get stuff for free. So if you have an Amazon Prime account and you're interested in this, you might as well cash it in and get it, because that's better than paying for it and then getting stomped into the ground. Yeah, I don't really have a lot else to say about this, except that I am going to try it and I want these skins. I'm just not 100% sure how much I'm going to play it until I see how difficult it is to learn. If you're a regular listener and you play World of Tanks, I would really like to hear from you in terms of like, is this something that I can pick up and play and have a good time with? Or is it something where I'm going to be like, it'd be like picking up, for lack of a better comparison, Fortnite or the new Call of Duty, which are games that you have to like spend some time grinding out to really learn the logistics, because for the first little bit you basically are just a pawn in everybody else's game. So we'll come back to this. I will play this and we'll come back and talk about it a little more. It's got, it's not even halfway through with the like giveaway part of it, so this will be around for a little bit and we'll touch base with it again once I've had some hands-on time with it to see how I feel about it. It looks great and I'm very interested in it. It looks like they recorded like 200 voice lines for Duke and Cobra Commander. So the novelty of that will at least get me in the door, and then we'll kind of go from there. Good news for all the fans of the Geek subscription service Loot Crate. G.I. Joe is getting some much needed love in the form of the Honor Crate that will feature our favorite G.I. Joe female superstar, Scarlet. For those of you that do not know what Loot Crate is, they are the #1 pop culture subscription-based service on the planet, bringing the love of pop culture conventions to fans at home. A curated collection of awesome items from the best cop... Alright, this is too much like an ad. The Honor Loot Crate started on March 19th and runs for $24.99. Before I get into this figure, Jaron, I must ask, have you ever bought a Loot Crate figure before?
I was subscribed to Loot Crate for about 6 months.
Oh yeah,
it's probably been since like 2015 though.
And would you say, as an overall, that subscription service was worth it?
I could see people thinking it's worth it. For me, it wasn't, because it was normally like I maybe liked 1 or 2 items.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're into a whole lot of different things, and there was a lot of stuff that I was not into that was really popular during that time. Like, there's a lot of Doctor Who stuff, Game of Thrones things, and like those kind of things that I just never cared about. Mm-hmm. That they were sending stuff out, it was cool stuff. I would have rather had Star Wars or Transformers or Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. And they did give you stuff like that. It was just not as much. So I honestly didn't realize they were still around.
Yeah, I think we went through a phase a couple years back where Loot Crate was like a big deal, and lots of people had it and they were really into it. And I've never had a Loot Crate subscription because I have enough junk in my home as it is, thanks.
Yeah.
And same thing, I felt like you might get one thing that you really liked, and ultimately it makes more sense from a financial perspective, which is not something you're going to hear from me very often, to look at what people got in it, and then you could just go on eBay, because people would always sell the stuff that they didn't want, and it would go dirt cheap because there were so many people that had it at once. People would come into when I worked in retail and would give me stuff that they got that they didn't want. So I don't know, I guess it's cool to get stuff in the mail, but I was always like, there's too much of a blanket here it's honestly stuff that was not going to be on display in my home probably ever. I have enough trouble prioritizing things that I really love and getting them out there. Mm-hmm. So with all that said, I did buy this one because I wanted to because it's very uncommon for a G.I. Joe item to ship. This is one of the only things I can think of, actually. Certainly that's also an exclusive. I did buy this because I wanted this figure, and I thought $24.99 isn't exactly breaking the bank, and it's a very unusual figure. If you look at this figure and are immediately like, this is terrifying, then I get it. The eyes on this thing are like dinner plates. They are monstrous, and I do think this very narrowly threads the line between what is like very adorable and very terrifying. Like, it's unusual, but I am not one to pass up a G.I. Joe item, basically of any sort. And there is a lot of good detail on this little, I guess it's more of a statue. I don't know what you call a very small, non-mobile action figure. She has the throwing stars on her wrist. She has her knife on her belt. Like, the details on her outfit are right. She's got her crossbow. I mean, everything, it crosses all the T's and dots all the I's. Like, it's made well. It's just that the face is bizarre. And I thought, man, if they start a series of these, I would be upset to not have gotten this one. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. I got, as we'll get into, I got stimulus money, so I was just literally like,
yeah,
put the word G.I. Joe on it, and I'll take it. So did you pick this up?
I did not. I don't normally wish ill will to things, but I really hope they don't make a series of this.
Yeah.
She freaks me out. She reminds me of those Precious Moments dolls. You remember
yeah, absolutely.
Those things? That's what she gives me the vibe of, like a dangerous, precious moment.
I totally get that. Maybe when the in-hand product comes in, I'll feel better. But this is...
If they just did a different face, I would really like it.
Yeah. If you compare this to on our last Relax Fit episode, we were talking about those Bombshell series figures. And those are heavily anime influenced, and I think those work just fine. This is crossing kind of into the uncanny valley a little bit for me.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
But still wanted to pick it up regardless.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If they do make a series of it, I'll pick up like the Snake Eyes because his eyes won't be that way.
Maybe his visor will be like burp.
Or they'll do the goggles, and they'll just do 2 ginormous goggles. Maybe Cobra Commander won't be bad. I'll pick up some of those, but hopefully they focus their efforts somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay, more news. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Mini-Mates, Free Comic Book Day 2021 box set. Who Fights for Freedom? God, these media notices are always like, G.I. Joe's the #1 fighting hero, blah, blah, blah.
We're not getting paid enough.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
To give out advertisements, okay? You want us to read it? You give us some money. Give us some kickback. Or give it to us for free. We don't even need real money. Send me a thing, and I'll do it.
We're not getting paid enough, which is to say that we're not getting paid anything. Based on the popular Real American Hero looks, the first box set includes Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Storm Shadow, and Cobra Commander, and it's exclusively available to retailers participating in Free Comic Book Day 2021. Each 2-inch Mini-Mate minifigure features 14 points of articulation and includes interchangeable parts and accessories, and all come packaged in a full-color blister card. So, if you're not familiar with Mini-Mates, they're basically like Lego-sized figures where they have their own kind of design style choice, and they are pretty well articulated. They come with accessories. Jaron, this is a long shot, but do you own any Mini-Mates?
You know, I'm trying to see. I own an Iron Giant, and I thought that this is what it is, but the more I think about it, the more I do not think that that's what it is.
I have one set of Mini-Mates in my collection, and I do love them, and they are the Mass Effect Mini-Mates, which is a very popular video game if you're not a video game enthusiast. And I have the whole set, and I love them. So these are great. Like, the Mini-Mates has been around for 2 decades or something. They've been around forever, and they do. I mean, they're not Funko level, but they have tons and tons of successful properties that they've delivered. So, and I'm actually kind of surprised it took them this long to do it. And I am, before I even get your opinion on it, I'm just telling you that I'm all in on these. I love them, and I think they're great. And and this also becomes a continuing series, I'll be fully invested. When the Creo line ended, which is the like Lego knockoffs basically, and I loved those also. It did kind of leave a void, and I was very reluctant to start collecting the Creo stuff because I thought this stuff is expensive. It's like a whole new set of stuff. And I was like, and I still don't have anywhere to display that stuff, but I loved it so much. And in the limited amount of time that they were putting out Creo G.I. Joes, they covered a lot of bases. Like, they released a lot of figures, and for the most part I was pretty satisfied with it. So this kind of scratches an itch in that territory to continue on with something that maybe I didn't know that I needed, but I'm really happy with. All right, so what do you think about these, Jaron? Are you interested in these at all?
Well, first off, I do technically own a Mini-Mate. That Iron Giant is a Mini-Mate. I Googled it.
I got to dive in real quick before you get started with that. Is it the size like the Iron Giant, or is it size?
It is. That is why I say technically, because he is bigger than what these would be. So he's not as articulated, but he's larger.
Does he come with like the kid?
They had one that was with the kid, but the one I got was a exclusive that was a metallic one that was just by himself.
That's pretty cool.
And it is cool. There's not a lot of Iron Giant stuff, and there definitely wasn't when I bought this, which was a couple years ago. So I bought that. They're weird because they hit that like Playmobil level for me, but I'm gonna give them a try. They are right on that line for me. Like, I could either really like them or really hate them, and I think it's gonna come down to seeing them in person.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is something that you don't hear from me very often, but unless the packaging on this is excellent, I will definitely be opening these and kind of displaying with them and playing with them. I could see my daughter really enjoying these, and she would probably not destroy them right away. The real kicker here is that these, I don't know how hard these are going to be to get, because right now they're already like, the pre-order's already gone in Big Bad Toy Store. Even the like Media Blitz is saying available exclusively to retailers for Free Comic Book Day, which is, so they're saying like basically your local comic book shop. So I don't know if they're going to put limitations on that. Are they going to go to every comic book shop? Do you have to order it in advance? So that'll be a kicker, as well as, are they going to be hard to get? Am I going to have to buy them on the secondhand market? That's all going to factor into my enjoyment, is how hard it is for me to hunt them down. Anyway, releases on August 2021 on Free Comic Book Day. I guess we'll see. We'll come back and visit these. I will get these, and I'll do an unboxing of them, and we'll see what they look like. I'd also be curious to see how these stack up to the Creo toys, to see if they're compatible. I'm not saying I would mix and match those lines, but it's the only other G.I. Joe toy that's like in that 2-inch radius that might be feasible, that they would have some kind of pre-made vehicles to goof off with. I don't think Mini-Mates makes any kind of like vehicle sets or accessory sets. I might be wrong on that, but I haven't seen a lot of extra stuff like that. So we'll touch base with this in August, and we'll see what they look like out of the box. But based on these preview images, I think they look great. I mean, it's, you know what you're getting into with Mini-Mates. You're not getting them for the detail, but for what they are, I think they're really good.
We're gonna come back. We're gonna come back a year from now, and you're gonna have 100 Mini-Mates.
Oh God,
it's gonna awaken something within you.
It's terrifying, but very, very plausible. G.I. Joe Geeky Tiki's launch. From Beeline Creative comes the G.I. Joe Geeky Tiki, Storm Shadow, and Snake Eyes. Each mug holding up to 16 ounces and is top shelf dishwasher and microwave safe. This makes me think of the old Think Geek era, where they were pumping these out left and right.
They sure were.
Geeky Tikis are like traditional tiki influenced mugs that have a kind of like totem pole, I guess is kind of what comes to mind.
Yeah.
But they're influenced by pop culture. And so you've got a black one that has Snake Eyes holding his Uzi and his sword, and then you've got a white one with Storm Shadow holding 2 katanas. This is a long shot. Jaron, do you own any Geeky Tikis?
There's a Star Wars one.
I should have figured.
I don't actually, like, it's at my friend's. He bought it for me when he went to Disney. I haven't got it from him yet.
Oh.
I think he said he got a Jawa, but he also doesn't know Star Wars that much, so.
So it could just be any random thing.
It could be anything. It could be Yoda. It could be
Bantha.
It could, yeah, it's probably, honestly, I would be happy with a Bantha. That one looks really cool.
So I also have Geeky Tikis at my home. I have a Boba Fett one.
Ooh.
I bought I think it's Worf from Star Trek for my wife.
Nice.
And then I have an Iron Man one also that I clearanced out. Because when they first came out, I was like, these are actually pretty cool. I'd like to have one or two. And then they really kind of flooded the market, and I was like, all right, cool it. I'm never going to drink out of these ever, ever, ever. But having said that, I will definitely be picking both of these up. I think they are both very cool looking. Again, great display piece for something. This has been a great year for the G.I. Joe collector that likes the unusual or variety in his collection. And if you listen to our past episodes, you know this is a big thing for me, that I probably almost every episode talk about how I'm planning on building a display based around the kind of the eccentric parts of the G.I. Joe universe. And this is a perfect example of that. I definitely am getting these. I want them on display. I've got something brewing, and when it all comes together, I'll actually have enough product to display it out and make it look super, super cool. So I'm excited about these. I mean, it's not like revolutionary, but I will say that if you look at the stuff that we're reporting on today, it really shows how the G.I. Joe license and brand is spreading, and that's not something we've seen in a long time. Like, they don't normally, I don't think they felt like that the demand was there to make these like third party type things or license them out to other people to create other products, and I'm extremely excited about that. They're not all going to be hits, but I think it's still good for the brand to expand what's out there, like what you can actually purchase. And I'm going to support most of that stuff, to be blunt. Like, usually get me hook, line, and sinker with stuff like this. But I am ecstatic to see it. Okay, last news item before we get into our recent pickups, and this will just be kind of an update. The Mezco Toys 12-inch collective Destro launched.
You got to say 1/12 collective.
Sorry,
1/12 collective.
Joining the 1/12 collective Mezco Toys Destro. So this went up for pre-order, and they kind of surprised everybody because they had been holding back some details. Either that or they were responding to criticisms from the public. And ultimately, the biggest criticism was everybody was really split on the head sculpts for these figures, because you had the laughing face Destro that most people were like, that seems out of character. You had the emotionless mask Destro that was just kind of like, I mean, it's a mask, you can't emote. And then they suddenly revealed at the time that the pre-orders opened up that there's a third head mold that's kind of like, I mean, it's basically the compromise between the two of those. Mm-hmm. It's a regular smooth looking faceplate, and he's kind of got his like frowny face on, and it is definitely the best of the three. It looks great. But that's not all. They also showed all the other stuff that's going to come with him. So 3 different heads. He's got wrist rockets that both are or are not firing. He's got a big old machine gun. He's got 3, 6, 12 interchangeable hands. Display stand. There's a pistol and a holster. He's got, probably the most exciting thing is comes with a briefcase that flips up and it looks like a supercomputer. Oh, but it also opens up and there's like chemicals and bombs and stuff in there. Oh, but that's not all, because it lights up. And then that flips open and you can take his gun apart and put it into individual pieces. His gun is completely, like, you can completely dissect it and put it together in any formation that you want. So this went from being something that I was like, I'm going to see how hard this is to pre-order, to I must check out with this immediately in case it sells out, because it elevates it from a pretty good looking piece to something that I absolutely had to have. And with the uncertainty of whether or not this would become a recurring theme in the Mezco line, like if they're going to do more of them, if it turns out to be just kind of a casual one-off, or even if there's like a 1-year break in between this and the next one, I did not want to look back on this and go, man, I wish I'd got this when it was only $100, which is kind of what you expected. I think you had kind of ballparked it in that price point, so good call on that.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I went to Big Bad Toy Store right away. Big Bad Toy Store had cheaper shipping and a cheaper down payment. It does have a $10 non-refundable down payment. But I had done some research prior to this where people were like, don't get it from Mezco because they'll really gouge you on the shipping. And I have learned, thanks to Hasbro Pulse, that if you want something early, don't get it from the people that make it, because they're obligated to fulfill before they ship out their own product, which sucks, but makes sense from a business point of view. So I get it, but I've learned my lesson, basically. So I did get this from Big Bad Toy Store, and I am optimistic that it will be fulfilled in a timely manner. It's saying that it's estimated to arrive the first quarter of 2022. So I will 100% forget about that $90 charge coming to my credit card next year, and just kind of play dumb when my wife questions me on it. But I wasn't going to miss out on it. And they went above and beyond. They took something that was an average-looking product and made it into an exceptional-looking one. And I'm very excited to kind of get this guy out and mess around with him. Do you have similar feelings, Jaron?
Yeah, I don't remember how I talked last time we had discussed it. But I ended up pre-ordering it, and I'll be pretty pumped. This will be my first Mezco. Hopefully it's my last. Although, actually, hopefully it's not. I don't know. I would love to see like them kind of focus on some of the characters that are a little more, not less known, but maybe a few of the like side characters, or not even that really, because I don't want we don't want them. I don't want $100 sci-fi. Like,
oh, I do.
Well, okay. I want $100 sci-fi. I want $100 tripwire. Like I want some of those, but I don't think it would make a lot of sense for them to do that. But maybe some of the characters that have been, filling in the holes, since these will scale with the classified line. Like maybe we get a Mindbender from Mezco, or maybe we get a Serpentor from Mezco. That would be pretty cool, actually.
That would be amazing. It's a difficult business choice to say we're going to make the next most popular characters as opposed to launching with a Snake Eyes or a Duke or a Scarlet. But you're absolutely right. As someone that has not only picked up this character in a 6-inch scale very recently, multiple times now at this point, you get a fatigue from buying so many Snake Eyes, buying so many Dukes, buying so many Scarlets. Characters that I do love, but you're just like, I'm oversaturated. We were talking when this Mezco went up that I was like, I just pre-ordered a Destro statue. I just got the classified Destro. And then there was a repaint of the Destro with the Prophet Director one. So
plus you have the retro Destro, and not the same size, but still a lot of Destro going on. If this had been a Shipwreck, if this had been a Spirit, if this had been a Serpentor, if this had been a lot of the other characters, I would have done it in a heartbeat. I still am debating on if I really want this or not, or if I'll just keep it in the case and eventually trade it to someone who actually wants it.
I think you're spot on. I would love to see some characters that have not been announced via the classified line get this treatment. And if this line is going to continue, I would like to see it progress very slowly. If they would put one of these out maybe every year and a half, that's about the speed that I can afford to continuously plug $100 into it. This is not something that needs to grow very aggressively, but I will continue to buy these if they deliver the same quality as this one has. So anyway, that's the news that we saw fit to report. And now it's time to get into our recent acquisitions. Over in recent acquisitions, it's been an extremely busy 2 weeks for both of us. And yeah. I'll be upfront and give you a little transparency on that. The literal day that they signed the stimulus into effect, which was a Friday, I was like, well, no time like the present. Let's stimulate the economy. And immediately started buying stuff willy-nilly. I went a little buck wild with some stuff, and so some stuff I'm gonna talk about kind of casually in passing, and then other stuff we'll talk about at length. But before that happened, we made a trip to the Antique Toy Mall in Louisville, where we saw a lot of very interesting stuff, and we both scored some stuff as well. Let me see if I can correctly remember the stuff that I picked up from the Antique Toy Mall, because we did see a lot of cool stuff.
There was a whole lot. And there's a lot of stuff that we could have walked out with that we left there that, next time we go down, which won't be too long, I would say. Give it a little bit of time maybe to get some fresh stock in, but there are things that I know that I left there that I would buy if I went there right now.
Yeah, so if I am looking at my notes correctly, I picked up 3 things at the Antique Toy Mall. And those things were, I found an LCV, which is the low crawl vehicle, which is a tiny little, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a motorcycle, but it's not, I don't know. It's
like a snowmobile that's just slower and lower and no snow.
I had an LCV when I was a kid. And in terms of looking for smaller vehicles that I could get complete at a pretty aggressive price, the LCV was something that kept popping up. And every time I see it, I would go, oh man, I had one of these. I didn't use it a whole lot, but it was something that when you're looking at older toys and you're to complete, it's always the stuff that you had as a kid that will keep coming back to your mind. So the LCV is not, while I don't think it's an exceptionally interesting vehicle, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I remember having this as a kid, and I certainly was not complete when I was a kid. Most of my stuff from my youth got pretty heavily destroyed. So I found an LCV that was complete. I picked it up and was happy to do so. The other 2 things I picked up at the toy mall are both really out there. So there was a booth set up at the toy mall that had 12-inch G.I. Joe figures. Now, we've touched on this briefly before, but I am well, let me rephrase that before I even start. I want to get a small selection of 12-inch G.I. Joe figures that represent the line with a little bit of accuracy. But I don't know anything about anything that's pre-Real American Hero. So the stuff that I was looking at, I knew nothing about. And even now, at this time of the recording, after doing some research, couldn't really find... I mean, I guess this guy is just named G.I. Joe. It's part of the Action Team series. I know that. And I know it's dated 1964 because I was able to find one on eBay. But it's not... And that's about it. He's just a dude in his military greens that has the Action Team like medallion. And I'll put a picture of that up on our YouTube so you can kind of see what I'm talking about because I'm doing a pretty poor job of describing it. But... when I saw this figure and they had a bunch of them, I was, also he's got flocked hair, which was that was a must, basically. I thought, this guy actually does kind of resemble the bread and butter of what I wanted out of the 12-inch line. So, and he was complete. Like he has a little pistol and he has a stand and it's very cool. As I just mentioned, I wanted to have something that kind of collectively shows a lot of the history of G.I. Joe that doesn't fit into my core collecting habits. And this was something that I thought, this is perfect. This is like something that looks good, is in good shape, represents a era of the G.I. Joe timeline that I don't have a great representation of, any representation of. And so I picked him up and I'm really happy with him. I think he'll look great in my collection. And it does open a door where there are other figures that are a little bit more unique. Bullet Man comes to mind, or like the Atomic Man, any of those figures that had like a real strong personality. I'm now like kind of leaning into that where I'm like, well, if I see one and I can get one at a good price, I might add that to it as well and build that collection up very slowly over time. So anyway, this guy had a lot of good stuff. He had those vehicles are huge that go with those guys. He had a lot of really great stuff on display that was really cool to see. So I don't get to see a lot of that stuff, and I never get to see it in person. So I added that to the collection, and I'm really happy with it, and I really like it. I like it quite a bit. The last thing I picked up was more of a project than anything, but they had the X-23, which is the huge stealth fighter. I was walking by and I found one that was, I won't say stripped for parts, but is in definite need of some love. But it was $25. So $25 is what it would cost to ship one in any condition, probably at this point. And I already knew that I had one of the wings that was missing for it. It has these gray wings that like slide out and the guns pop up. So I was like, well, I already know I have one of the things that's missing for it. And I have an X-23 that's actually in great shape, humble brag. But I thought, man, I could take this home and maybe fix it up and get it to its proper home instead of leaving it here at the toy mall. So for $25, I pulled the trigger and was like, yeah, come on home with me, buddy. I'll show you a whole new army.
Jared, it's a cool vehicle. It's a cool vehicle for sure.
Jared, why don't you talk a little bit about the stuff that you found at the toy mall?
Well, yeah. So first off, I bought a bunch of Power of the Force 2 figures, and I apologize to everyone for that. If for those of you who don't know, that's like the late 90s Star Wars figures that look like wrestling people. They're not expensive. I just buy them because I'm a terrible decision maker. But my good purchases that I bought, the first thing was I bought a Mud Fighter, which was, it was pretty cool. It was pretty close to those original Joes that Greg had purchased, and I was debating on a few of the vehicles at that guy's booth or whatever you would want to call it. But the Mud Fighter, it's a charming little vehicle, and I like planes, and it was one of those things that I didn't have any aerial vehicles for my Joes yet, so I went ahead and purchased it so it could fight with my Fang that I got. So I love it. And then I got a Wild Bill to fly that because I don't have Wild Bill's vehicle yet. So Wild Bill could fly that. And then I got a Ram, which is kind of my version of the LCV. How Greg kept stumbling upon the LCV, I kept stumbling upon Rams and just being like, well, maybe, but let's see what else we have. And then I always ended up going with something else. But finally, I got my Ram. And then the last vehicle that I purchased there, I was stuck between, it was the Locust and I get the Awe-Striker, but the black Awe-Striker. And, the Locust was quite a bit more expensive, and ended up going with the All-Striker. And the gentleman that was working there, actually, he was like, hey, we have the driver for it. He's right over here. And, like, he knew. I mean, he was great at his job. He knew exactly where it was. He, like, walked over, grabbed it, and was like, here you go. So I bought Pathfinder as well. So I've got that complete. Everything's working. I've had it out and taken a few pictures of it, which will probably be on our Instagram within the next couple of days. You'll see that. And then I bought a couple weird things there. Not weird, just non-figures, I would say. So I got one of those little, I don't know what the correct terminology for it is, but basically the belt clip that looks like a little ammo container that can hold three figures. Whatever that is, I got one of those.
Let me chime in for a second so I can put some clarity on that. That when Jaron talks about the Locust, he's actually talking about the Dragonfly that was re-released in 2000, not the little tiny vehicle that came out in the original vintage line. Same, that All-Striker also is the one that's in all black. It came out as part of that Toys R Us era modern series as well.
Thank you, Greg. See, this is why we keep you around. This is why you get paid more than me while still not getting paid at all.
I think they had lost the rights to use the word Dragonfly on their vehicles at that time, but they probably still owned the rights to Locust, so they just repurposed it. If it's that Dragonfly is like a tan-ish color, and it's obviously one of the most iconic vehicles they make, but it had some yellowing, and so not my decision, but I kind of involuntarily steered Jaron away from it because I thought
you steered me in the correct direction.
For what they were asking for it was a little much. Whereas that All-Striker, that 2001 All-Striker, I thought looked great. And since I knew you already had the retro reissue All-Striker, I thought it would go well in line with that. When you picked that out, I was like, oh yeah, they have a crankcase over here because he's the driver. And then that dude was like, no, the driver that's included with this one is Pathfinder. And I was like, oh, dunk, he just scored on me big time because I forgot that they didn't ship a crankcase with that one. So I turned in my collector's card and came home and pouted about it.
It was really cool to have though. So, yeah, those are cool pickups. We'll go back and we'll get some more stuff. And then I got a collector case, which is like, it just got like some of the original Joes, and the American flag, and they're just kind of standing in front of it. It's a cool little piece. It'll look cool on display. That's why I bought it. It was super cheap.
Yeah, I just realized that you picked up like two different things for carrying G.I. Joes in, basically.
Yeah. So I probably have more storage space for G.I. Joes than I have G.I. Joes. Well, not modern. If you count modern, I've got more G.I. Joes. But yeah. So and then the last thing I purchased, just because it was weird and I like weird things, is I got a Night Creeper, a loose Night Creeper. I got him for the sole purpose that he has karate swinging action, and I thought that was cool.
This is the Ninja Force Night Creeper, not the one that most people would pick up. This is the insane purple one.
The Night Creeper V2, the one that looks like, I called him the Cotton Candy Viper. So I got one of those, and then actually, post Toy Mall, I actually picked up one mint on card because I'm weird.
I mean, if you were ever looking for a deal on a mint on card figure, Ninja Force is the way to go. I have a mint on card. Dojo, I think is who it is, and it was also very, very inexpensive because nobody wants them.
Yeah, my problem, I will almost never buy mint on card, and that's because I'm an opener, so I feel like it's wasteful. Like, I've passed up quite a few like modern figures that are on card that I could get for a decent price, but it's because I just feel bad. You know, I'm like, I would rather find it loose because I don't want to make the net number of mint on card figures go down, but I'm not going to keep them on card because that's not what I do. I want to get them out. I want to play with them. So those are all my pickups from just the Toy Mall.
All right, so we're just getting started. Post Toy Mall, I'm going to dive into a couple of things that I picked up on eBay, and most of this stuff I either picked up through Facebook groups or on eBay, and some of the stuff I'm just going to kind of breeze through because we've got other stuff coming. I did pick up those GameStop exclusive PCS statues. It's the second series. Comes with a Baroness, a Destro, and a Serpentor. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them because I have an unboxing video planned for the YouTube channel coming soon. I will say that I am pleased with 2 of the 3 of them, and you will just have to watch the video to see which one I'm displeased with.
Man.
Following rash of conversations about Starduster that I've been privy to recently, both on G.I. Joe Berg, I think we were talking about it a little bit as well. In general, I'm kind of always talking about the G.I. Joe cereal because I'm obsessed with it, and I want a G.I. Joe cereal box very badly. I have in my mind have been saying for quite a while now that to celebrate, if we ever make it to 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, that I would buy a box of unopened G.I. Joe cereal, and I would open it, and I would take one bite of this 30-year-old cereal live on our YouTube channel.
If we do it, I'm coming there. I'm doing it with you.
You'll have to revive me. So anyway, I love the character of Starduster, and if you're not familiar with Starduster, he was a mail-away promotion that you could only get through the G.I. Joe cereal, which is crazy to think about. But I think Starduster's great, and he's a rare figure because of that, obviously. Anyway, I found this dude on eBay that was selling these little pack-in comics that came with the cereal. They made these 3 randomly distributed comics. They're only like 5 pages each. They're really mini comics. They're extremely tiny. And this dude had all 3 of them, and they were all 3 unopened still. And it was for like, I don't know, I paid like $10-15 maybe. And I thought, oh man, this is great. And I own a Starduster that's in pretty good shape overall. So I thought, I'm going to get this to add to kind of like that part of the collection. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It was just a small pickup that I had been putting off for a long time. And I don't normally buy paperwork in general, but I like Starduster so much that I decided I would snag it and throw it on there. The other stuff I picked up is, let's see, in order that I picked them up, I bought 2 things the same day that the stimulus was signed into effect. I tried to get a jump start on everybody getting their money. I was like, I'm gonna spend it before some people even get theirs. I bought 2 D tier vehicles is what I would refer to them at. I bought the pulverizer because I have recently decided that I would like to complete my Battle Force 2000 vehicle set. The Battle Force 2000 vehicle set every vehicle has a piece that comes off, and Voltron forms this little fort that for all the characters to be fortified. Anyway, Battle Force 2000 vehicles are very cheap, and that's part of the reason that it was on my radar. But I owned some Battle Force 2000 stuff as a kid also, and I never had a complete set, so I'm kind of looking into snatching those up when I can get them on the cheap, and then they're complete. So I picked up a pulverizer. I have to go through my collection and see. I have some other Battle Force 2000 stuff, but I don't know if it's in good enough shape or if it just needs to be flat out replaced. And the other thing I bought on that same day is a vehicle that's called the Dictator, which is a small character-driven vehicle that came with a guy named Overlord. Now, if you're not familiar with Overlord, I'm not surprised because he's one of the most overlooked but yet highest potential characters in the G.I. Joe line, in my opinion. Overlord came out as part of the 9th series. It came out in 1990. And he came with what was kind of a popular thing around this time where they basically made you buy a small vehicle at the same time. If you bought a Serpentor, you had to buy the Air Chariot. If you bought the Goldhead Destro, you had to buy his little hovercraft thingy. And Overlord, you had to buy the Dictator, which is like part tank and part hovercraft. Now, I have an Overlord, so it didn't come with the figure. Because again, I actually really like this character. But I didn't have the vehicle any longer because I had disassembled it to make a brainwave scanner when I was a kid, because they never made a brainwave scanner, and it was used literally all the time. You couldn't turn a corner without the brainwave scanner being a part of the story. So I took the chair part of this little tank apart and turned it into the chair that they strap people into for the brainwave scanner. I still have it somewhere, and because it has Downtown's helmet, and it's glued to a tube, and you would strap that helmet on them. I mean, for a kid, it worked. Anyway, I love Overlord, and I wanted his vehicle, so I picked this up. It was also cheap because nobody cares about Overlord other than me. Overlord is like one of those characters that he was supposed to be part of the true Cobra like leadership. Like he rose up from the ranks of the legions, and he's a power-hungry authoritarian bent on becoming Cobra Supreme Ruler. And he has a lot of potential, and I don't know why. Maybe just the wrong place at the wrong time. Never gets used in anything. In the Devil's Due run, he shows up for a little bit because he sides with Serpentor. And in the Sigma 6 cartoon, Overlord is the name of the, like, there's like this supercomputer that does stuff. It has no resemblance to this character at all. But I used Overlord all the time. He was always like on the Cobra like council meetings. I could do a whole episode on him, and maybe we will at some point because I like him so much. But anyway, I got his vehicle, and I'm extremely happy with it. Jaron, I know you might not have this listed chronologically, but is there stuff that you picked up pre-stimulus that you want to talk about?
Pre-stimulus would have been I picked up a classified Zartan. Finally picked one of him up. I like him. He was actually I think the next day after the. I almost bought him at the Antique Toy Mall, but then I was like, I'll get him soon, because he was basically twice the cost, twice of what he should cost. So I was like, I don't want to do that for what is only hopefully maybe a month, which would have probably end up being way longer because I don't know when we're gonna actually get our pre-orders in. Even though I pre-ordered him at like 4 different places. So picked up him. I think I picked up the Dollar General green modern shipwreck. So I already had the blue Dollar General modern shipwreck. I picked up the green one. I believe that was probably pre-stimulus. I honestly didn't even think about the stimulus though when I bought these. It was just my normal spending problems.
Well, I totally get that.
So I think the only thing that was stimulus was I've got one thing that I think I bought because it was a stimulus. I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. But I think Zartan and the shipwreck were probably the only ones that were pre-stimulus.
As a general rule, I know we've talked a lot about the stimulus, but as a general rule, if I have money in my bank account, I am looking for G.I. Joe stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to blow through a couple of other things that I picked up right off the bat because they're smaller purchases that didn't have a huge impact. I found some stuff on Facebook that was a good deal and bought it in bulk. I picked up a hydro sled. So that's another toy that I had as a kid that was very incomplete. I also picked up a mud fighter. Despite the fact that I have a mud fighter, it was missing the wings and a lot of the bombs, and there are a lot of bombs to be missing on that mud fighter. Mm-hmm. And it worked out well because he shipped a dogfight, which is the mud fighter's pilot, and Jaron didn't get one with his. So now we've both got our bases covered there. We got a dogfight for every mud fighter. That's my new stimulus motto.
There you go.
I picked up a Silver Mirage, which is kind of like a Ram-esque looking motorcycle that is something I never owned, is kind of popular on the secondhand market. It is, and it's missing the handlebars and the windshield, so it's in pretty good shape. There's nothing broken. I think I can probably complete it in the near future for not a ton of money. And I picked up a Cobra Stun, which is a vehicle that I had as a kid that I used all the time. Although not featured extremely prominently, the Cobra Stun, it's always going to be in my mind because they used it in G.I. Joe, the animated movie. And I will never not be able to, whenever time I think about it, I always picture the animated movie. And I had a Cobra Stun, but it was in real bad shape. It was missing, most of it. The gimmick of the stun is that the two front, compartments open, kind of like a mouth opening to the left and the right, and that part didn't work well on mine, so this was well priced. The only thing it's missing are the flags, which I'm going to buy some repro flags. Most flags have bent or broke over time, so I'm just not even going to chase that. I'm just going to get them replaced. And I also picked up the SLAM, the Strategic Long Range Artillery Machine, which is this tiny little thing that came out in 1987. It's just a little cannon, basically. It has a bunch of little missiles on it, and it was another one of those vehicles that kind of slipped under my radar when I was a kid, because there's nothing about it that's particularly alluring, but it was something I missed. Falls into the category of small vehicles that I'm trying to scoop up, and was complete. And then I have two last things to talk about, but I'm going to throw it back over to you, Jaron, if you want to talk about some stuff you picked up.
All right, so I'll knock a few of these out. For those of you who have followed along with the Badger series that I've done, basically finding the Badger, falling in love, and then having that love stripped away from me by my careless animals. I now have 2 Badgers, thanks to Destro's Toy Den. Shout out to them. Got them for a great price, shipped nice and easily and safely. I just reached out to him, was like, hey, do you have these? He said, yes, here's the price. I said, cool. We made a deal, and they were shipped out the next day. It was great. It was just fantastic. And this is all while they were dealing with Joe Lana. So, very impressive if you give it a chance. Check them out. So I picked those up. They came in. Flags, everything, great. My 2 favorite vehicles other than the Vamps. So after buying those, I actually purchased a custom Vamp. It's not anything crazy, so and it was actually probably a little cheaper than most of the Vamps I had seen, just regular Vamps. But basically they took the missile launchers from the, is it the Stinger? That's the black Vamp for Cobra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they used the missile launchers from the Stinger, and they painted it green, and then gave it bright, or non-Cobra decals, and it's just a regular Vamp. And then he put a spare tire on the front, and it's custom-ish. It's got some different molding on the back, or probably just attachments on there. It is currently delayed at the post office, but I'm counting it as right now because I want it.
It is very cool looking. We'll have a picture of that up on YouTube. I'm sure once Jaron gets it, it'll show up on our Instagram.
It sure will, along with all my other... I'll probably put it with the Badgers, and we'll just show them all off at once. Maybe I need to commission someone to make a Badger-colored Vamp. Just make the Vamp worse. So that was my other vehicle purchased from eBay. Picked that one up. And then I went on to eBay, and I was originally looking for a HAL to go behind the Vamps, and couldn't find one for the price. And then I found one, and then it turned out to be a miniature, and I felt bad because I had already purchased it, and then I read it. Because I just got so excited at the price. I was like, buy it. Let's go. And then after reading it, when I was waiting on it to be shipped, I was like, oh, wait, this is a miniature. It was one of the die-cast minis.
We've all been there.
So I sent the guy a message and was like, hey, look, here's what happened. I said, I'm sorry. I said, if you can cancel it, that'd be great. If not, I'm the one that made the mistake, so I will be glad to have it. And, it was Wheeljack's Lab on eBay. I don't know if you've had any experience with them, but this is now the 3rd time I've dealt with them. And it's been phenomenal every time. So I immediately just turned the money from that HAL into the Snake Eyes version 3 complete, and Slipstream for the X30 Conquest is the vehicle that he drives. So I picked one of him up, which is good considering I took a little trip out to the toy department in Cincinnati, Ohio. Took that over the weekend. And let me just say, if you get the chance, you should go out there. Even if you just collect G.I. Joes, there's a bunch. If you collect other stuff, there's a bunch. You will not be disappointed, even just to see it. There's a lot of prototypes that they have. Go check out the toy department. Really good prices, really cool people. And you could just look at all kinds of cool things. So I picked up a X30 Conquest. And so now I've got my Slipstream. And they'll go together. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's a great vehicle. Look,
it's
honestly,
really cool.
It's got a lot of it's a very clean vehicle. You know what I mean? It's there's not a lot of bells and whistles. It just gets straight to business, and I like that about it.
Yes, I made my wife drive for a little bit so I could play with it. I was like, making it look like I was flying it around. So it was pretty cool. And then my last purchase, with my one stimmy purchase was I got a Sonic Fighters Viper. I picked one of those up because I'd been eyeballing it, and I was like, I don't want to spend that much on just one figure, and then I did it, and I'm excited.
Jaron, I give you a hard time because of the stuff that you focus in on, but I have to be honest and say that I actually love experiencing the stuff that you purchase as a new fan and a new collector. The stuff that like catches your eye that you hone in on is it really makes me happy to see the stuff that you get into. Like, because for a hobby that's been around as long as it has, you don't get to experience that very often. You don't get to see people that are picking up the line for the first time that look over it as a whole and go, oh, I like this, without having like a lot of. It would be impossible for me to look at a Sonic Fighters Viper and go, that doesn't look like the Viper that I know. I want my Viper to be a blue and a red. So for you to look at that and go, this is really cool, I'm gonna pick it up. It does bring me a certain sense of joy.
I'm glad to be able to be that new set of eyes. I met a few cool people at Toy Department, talked to them. They were also Joe collectors, also not from around the Toy Department, that had traveled just to see everything. Had some good conversations, and they were also kind of blown away that, like, holy cow, you're getting into it now. Like, first off, I'm really sorry because everything's more expensive now. So, like, I apologize is what they were saying to me. But also just like really, it's really cool to see that, you know, this hobby that so many people have cared about and loved for longer than I've been alive in some instances. You know, if you go back into the original Joes, especially. But, you know, this is something that has been so loved by so many people. So it's great that I can kind of come in and learn from all the people who have come before. And I get to experience all these weird things for the first time.
So I got two last things that I picked up. This has been a busy 2 weeks for us. We've really built up the old collection in the last little bit. I have two kind of my two bigger purchases. The first thing is I did pick up a FSS figure, the figure subscription service. I picked up a figure that I'm missing. I'm only missing a handful of SSS figures at this point, so I'm always kind of shopping around for them, but most of the ones I'm missing are from the early waves. They're usually pretty pricey. It takes me a while to pull the trigger on it. Well, anyway, I found a dude on Facebook that was selling a FSS 1.0, which is the very first wave, Quarrel. Now, if you're not familiar with the character of Quarrel, I totally understand. Quarrel is a character from Action Force, which is the UK, like the international G.I. Joe. And there's no short way to explain this if you're unfamiliar with it, but essentially a toy creator by the name of Palatoy started a line called Action Force, and they made figures like Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows. There was a unique set of heroes and enemies. And then at some point they reached a deal with Hasbro to use their molds to broaden their line. And so the first wave of figures has a completely different set of articulation. But the second set that came out, they were literally just taking Hasbro figures and they were repainting them and renaming them. And so Quarrel is a Scarlet figure that has got a complete redeco. She has a completely different hair color, outfit color, everything. And she's a completely different character. She has nothing to do with Scarlet other than she looked like her then. And so the FSS had spent some time making modern figures that are homages to these Action Force characters, and they are also basically straight repaints of the existing. So this is just a Scarlet that's been repainted to match the Quarrel's original colors, but in my mind they're completely unique characters, and this is one of the ones that I missed out on, so I was happy to pick it up. And the last thing that I picked up is something that I've been wanting for quite a while, and that is a Thunderclap. So I was in negotiations with this guy on Facebook to buy a Thunderclap, and somehow, magically, it fell through. I don't know how. I literally messaged this guy immediately and was like, hey, I'm interested in this. Let's talk about it. And then he messages me back 20 minutes later, nah, it's sold. So I what I can only describe as anger bought a Thunderclap on eBay right away because I had reached a point where I had already kind of entertained the thought that it was mine. So there's a seller on eBay. It goes by the name of Yojo Outlet. They're based out of Cincinnati. Really great guys. I found one it's 95% complete. It's missing an antenna, and it's missing one of these tiny little foot pads that goes on the cannon. And I got a good deal on it. I paid, it's like $60, and then I probably paid like, I don't know, $15 in shipping. So it wasn't outrageous. I mean, I know it's probably maybe a little bit more on the pricey side for you would call a medium scale vehicle. But honestly, at this point, I was like, I'm going to buy one and I don't care what it takes. And to their credit, the Yojo outlet's based out of Cincinnati, which is pretty close to us. So I got it I got it in maybe 48 hours. It was here very quickly. So kudos to them for being on the ball. The Thunderclaps one claim to fame is that it's basically made it on the cover of the Marvel issue run number 92. It's featured on the cover and is used in that issue. So it doesn't have like a long, it's not an incredibly popular vehicle, but for a long time I've been thinking about the Thunderclap. Maybe it's just because it has a huge honking cannon, because it's just like a mega long-range artillery weapon. I've always been it's something that I've wanted for a really long time. I think even as a kid, I had a pretty strong pull towards picking it up. So, and this is something that I had sent to Jaron right away when I saw it, but the Thunderclap has a feature where it ejects a shell when you simulate that you're firing it. And I didn't know that. So there's a bunch of missed information for me when it comes to stuff that I don't have hands-on experience with. So when I was messing around with it, I was like, oh, it looks like a shell goes in here. And then I was like, what happens when you pull this? And then it spits the shell out like you fired. Buddy, you talk about a gateway to my childhood. Discovering a new thing from my old toys, it was just an amazing rush of oh my gosh, this is so cool. I can't believe it. It looks amazing. That's so much fun. So I was extremely happy with that purchase. I am thrilled about it. I think it's great. It'll be one of those things that for the next 2 or 3 months, it'll be puttering around my room for a while. My daughter got a hold of it and started loading characters into it immediately. So we'll have some fun playing around with that for quite a while until I have a shelf space to appropriately put it on display.
Yeah, I remember reaching out actually to the same guy you did, and he had a Conquest, which I didn't even piece together until we were talking about it. But he had also sold his Conquest. Granted, I reached out a lot later, so it makes sense for me. Yeah, I remember you sending me hey, this guy's got this, I'm going to reach out. And it was within moments of him posting it. I don't know how someone could have. So, and then you almost immediately just being I bought one on eBay.
Yeah, I was very upset about it.
It was a very magical moment to experience over messages. Just, here's what's happening. I'm trying to get this Thunderclap. Ha ha ha. I'm getting this Thunderclap. Oh, wait, I didn't get it. And then, oh, wait, I bought a different one.
I can't think of a more defeating moment than being so close to something that you've been thinking about for so long and then having it pulled away at the last second. In my head, I was already this is what I'm going to do with it. And I got to dig out my long range character so he can finally, this is another thing. I am going to try to wrap this up because I know we're running long, but there is a adrenaline rush to having a vehicle driver and reuniting him with his vehicle for the first time as someone that has every vintage figure in some condition, but I'm missing a lot of vehicles. The idea of me being this is so goofy, but I'll be oh, I gotta find long range, and then I'll be all right, buddy, walk on up to it, and then he'll throw his arms up in the air and be yes, finally, my vehicle, come around, Joe's, look at what I got. I have a weird Toy Story mentality in my brain about what my toys are like when I'm not there. I'm oh man, Long Range is gonna be so happy about this. And I bet all the other characters I'm going to have them all stand around and be oh, thanks. Do you need any help cleaning it up, fixing it up? I have a problem. This is why we created a podcast, because I can't afford therapy.
Hey, now I'm just thinking about how I'm going to have to do that with Slipstream. I'm going to have his X30 just sitting here waiting for him.
I think there's something very satisfying about reuniting a vehicle driver with his vehicle after many, many years of probably not having one. So that's going to do it for us today. Sorry we ran a little long. We had a lot of stuff to cover. I didn't expect a big news week to combine with a very large purchasing history, but here we have it. Hope that's okay with you guys, that you're in for a little bit of a longer run.
All I'm saying is this next episode, when we do our next, purchase history thing, it better be lighter or I might be sleeping in the basement.
I got money to burn, baby. I'm selling. I'm selling all kinds of stuff to.
I should probably just sell some stuff. Honestly, that would probably help, and then I'll have even more of a problem because I'll just replace it immediately.
My eBay account is like a revolving door of stuff leaving my house and then coming back in. So that's going to do it for us today on Anything Joe's. Make sure you check us out on our social media. That's Anything Joe's Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can email us directly at anythingjoespodcast@gmail.com. And we love hearing from everybody. We've had a lot of great messages over the last 2 weeks, and we try to respond to everybody that responds to us or has got feedback for the show. And I'm never going to not bring that up, that messaging at us and giving us feedback or giving us support is a huge deal, and it always will be. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. And we look forward to talking to you again in 2 short weeks where anything's available for discussion here on Anything Joe's.